When I was photographed by paparazzi in 2012, Ryan looked entirely different.
She had a swollen face. Her mouth appeared larger. She refused to disclose what had changed. She remained mute for years as the rumors spread.
The 2025 Oscars followed.
Millions of spectators froze when she and Billy Crystal took the stage. The Meg Ryan of the 90s hardly resembled the woman they saw. Plastic surgeons began compiling lists of their suspected transgressions. The figures were startling.
What actually became of America's beloved?
Nobody could have predicted how complicated the truth is.
On November 19, 1961, Meg Ryan was born in Fairfield, Connecticut.
Margaret Mary Emily Ann Hira was her full name.
Susan Jordan, her mother, was an English teacher and an actress whenever she could.
Harry Hira, her father, taught maths while bearing the burden of his Polish and Runnian heritage. Their house was modest and peaceful. Nothing spectacular, just books, school routines, and Sunday mornings at St. Pius X, where her brothers and I were taught the value of community long before they were taught about celebrity.
She grew up with Andrew, Dana, and Annie. They are all being taught the same discipline and faith-related standards. Up until Meg's 15th birthday in 1976, nothing changed.
In order to pursue a full-time acting career, her mother packed her things and moved to New York City that year.
Overnight, the house was transformed.
Meg carried the memory of seeing her mother's car vanish down the road, and Harry became a single father to 4 kids. The silence in her voice conveys everything, even though she has only discussed that incident in little, deliberate chunks. There was a break in her when her mother left. According to family members, the breakup felt abrupt, like a door suddenly slamming.
Meg understood enough to feel the pain, even though she was only 15.
She seldom ever discussed the hurt caused by that day. The gap between them persisted even when her mother attempted to provide her version of events in interviews and periodicals years later.
Meg's perspective on loyalty and trust was influenced by that one incident. It silently lurked in the background of her initial choices.
I continued to move even when Hollywood knocked.
She shocked everyone at Bethel High School with her abilities. She was chosen as the most attractive member of her senior class upon graduating in 1979. She took first place in regional DECA competitions. At the age of 16, she won a statewide beauty pageant and received the DAR Good Citizen Award, which enabled her to be awarded a scholarship to the University of Connecticut. Before transferring to New York University, she began her studies in journalism. The Fishers at home forced her to establish her own stability, so she put in a lot of effort. She started making appearances in Burger King ads to help cover her living expenses. Her journey towards Hollywood began with those brief minutes in front of the camera. She was at NYU by 1981 and nearly finished with her degree. Although she was only a semester away, she was cast in the soap opera As the World Turns as Betsy Montgomery. They gave her $550 a week. That sum sounded like a lifeline to a teenage actress. She made the decision to drop out of school and focus entirely on acting. Film offers continued to come in her lap more quickly than she could analyze them, she subsequently claimed. At a period when dropping out was a real risk, it was a brave action. However, her intuition was correct.
It thrust her directly into the public eye. She changed her name at about the same time.
Meg Ryan was once Margaret Hira.
Hollywood representatives informed her that her roles might be limited because she felt too ethnic. She adopted her grandmother's maiden name.
It sounded simple and tidy.
It was a good fit for posters.
It was successful.
In a matter of years, Meg Ryan's name became synonymous with warmth and charm. She adapted herself to the game because she understood it. Being aware that sometimes the biggest doors open from little decisions. Rich and Famous, George Cukor's last film, was her first motion picture appearance in 1981. She portrayed a young hitchhiker named Debbie Blake who got sucked into an elderly woman's tale.
Shooting for 12 hours at a time, Cukor pushed his actors to their limits.
For a newbie, it was a demanding initiation, but Meg kept up. Even while the movie didn't make her famous, it did show her how hard the job could be and put her on a true Hollywood set. Additionally, it put her in a box too soon, with others referring to her as the naive ingenue before she even knew what that term meant. Then came 1983 and the low-budget horror movie Amityville 3D, in which she portrayed Lisa and had to cope with unsettling effects, trembling sets, and fake blood. Her performance was harshly criticized. She was even referred to seem wooden by one producer. The majority of young actors would have quit. Meg did the exact opposite. She started attending studies at the Theatre Institute of Lee Strasberg. She practiced, researched, and developed. Her career was not aided by the film, but the experience made her stronger and better, moving her away from unmemorable parts and towards something more significant. She contributed to the NBC sitcom One of the Guys in 1982. She portrayed the animated sister of Mickey Rooney, Lacey. After 12 episodes, the program was canceled. She was forced to work as a waiter in Manhattan after accruing $5,000 in debt. She tried out for 50 pilots a month at times. Although this moment was difficult and humiliating, it taught her how to be resilient and keep going in the face of rejection, a lesson she would use frequently in the future. She then landed the part of Carol Bradshaw in Top Gun in 1986. Among the more than 200 actresses that tried out, Tony Scott was drawn to Meg because of her chemistry with Tom Cruise. The days were long, up to 16 hours at times. The F-14 simulators caused her to get motion nausea. She also argued with Val Kilmer, accusing him of being conceited. However, the film became a global success, grossing $357 million. She was just 24. She had a six-figure salary. The celebrity, however, was the true shift. In Hollywood, her face suddenly had significance. She starred in Armed and Dangerous that same year. She was so optimistic that she even paid for the movie with her Top Gun money. However, the comedy hit hard. Despite having a $12 million budget, it only made $15.9 million at the box office. The rating on Rotten Tomatoes was 9%. The director found it difficult to collaborate with comedians. On the spot, Candy and Levy rewrote sequences. Meg was perplexed and disappointed. Hollywood reminded her that nothing is guaranteed, despite her belief that Top Gun will elevate her. In 1987, she played Lydia Maxwell in the movie Inner Space. The green screen work was difficult, but it looked like fun. She was claustrophobic from shooting scenes for 8 weeks. Green onions, for example, were employed by special effects artists to create microscopic lung tissue. Filming was bizarre and draining, yet something genuine occurred. She fell in love with Dennis Quaid. The film became a part of their story, both personally and professionally, after they were married in 1991. Then followed the suspenseful DOA in 1988. She portrayed Sidney Fuller, a student trapped in the final moments of a poisoned man. There have to be gory autopsy sequences in the film. Meg was 26 when she was abruptly confronted with pictures that profoundly affected her. Later, she claimed that in order to cope with the dread it evoked, she needed therapy. It compelled her to face ideas she never would have at that age. Although the part was dark, it made her more aware of her own emotional boundaries. It was almost unbelievable how Meg Ryan's well-known deli scene from When Harry Met Sally came together. In 1989, she knew she had to pretend to have an orgasm in front of a large group of people when she entered Katz's Deli. And she did it with a small smile that concealed her true nervousness. People still come to sit at the table where she previously appeared to lose control, even though it now has a plaque on it. The director's wife came up with the entire concept, and Ryan did it in a single fluid take, but Rob Reiner insisted that she try it again. It was a real crowd. There was actual tension. Until everything sounded perfect, she had to again reenact the incident. Billy Crystal laughed so hard that he later remarked that powerful Joe Young would have been proud when Rob Reiner stood in front of her and demonstrated how to fake one. The most memorable aspect was when a diner saw her go for it and said, "I'll have what she's having." Ryan received about $15 million in residuals from the film, which ultimately brought in $92 million. She was followed everywhere by that moment, which turned into one of the most significant scenes in her career. She was able to improvise throughout the remainder of the filming. She drew inspiration from her personal life following her divorce to compose about 40% of Sally's anxious lines on the spot. Although it created problems, it gave her character a sense of realism.
Billy Crystal also enjoyed adding lib.
Additionally, his quips occasionally caught her off guard. She left the stage one day, trembling with annoyance after he made fun of her phony chuckle. Before Rob Reiner intervened and soothed them both, the shoot nearly came to a halt for a day.
Nevertheless, the film's attractiveness was greatly enhanced by those brief outbursts of unfiltered passion. They kept things lively, humorous, and loose.
Both the film and Ryan's development into a genuine romantic comedy star were influenced by those scenes.
In 1990, Joe vs. the Volcano followed immediately after.
Under the sweltering Hawaiian sun, she worked beside Tom Hanks. The days were lengthy, frequently lasting up to 14 hours. She portrayed 3 distinct characters, alternating between Didi, Patricia, and Angelica while attempting to maintain mental equilibrium for each. Later, Hanks said that she occasionally had such a tremendous energy that it seemed to overshadow him. On television, their relationship remained strong, but behind the scenes, everyone was under pressure. Ryan wanted every part to seem authentic, and her encounters with Hanks occasionally reflected that emotion. Nevertheless, her work demonstrated the breadth of her abilities and paved the way for more significant, in-depth tasks.
Then, in 1991, something very else appeared.
She wanted to comprehend the world Jim Morrison lived in, so Oliver Stone placed her as Pamela Corson in The Doors. In order to observe how the mind changed while under the effect of LSD, she immersed herself in study, even attending supervised sessions. Fearing that this would damage her reputation, her agent became alarmed. There were a lot of drug scenes, pandemonium, and intense emotions in the movie.
Ryan made an effort to keep up with its darkness, but the part was taxing. Her performance was not well received by critics. Nonetheless, some in the industry tacitly appreciated the risk she made. It demonstrated her willingness to enter a room even though she had no idea what might be there. She changed once more by the middle of the 1990s, this time into animation. Despite never having trained her voice for such a role, she spent almost 200 hours recording lines and songs when she voiced Anastasia in the 1997 movie. Between 1995 and 1996, she worked, and the story affected her. Her dreams were plagued by the execution of the Romanov family. As she recorded the terrifying moments, she felt a connection to Anastasia, and after every session, she took that feeling home. Her portrayal gave the character warmth and contributed to the film's success as a classic. However, a woman behind the voice was having trouble sleeping due to the sadness she was carrying. Her fame peaked immediately after it. She starred in the 1993 picture The Heart of Sleepless in Seattle, which brought in over $227 million worldwide. It made $17 million in its first weekend alone. Her modest charm and gentle voice won over hearts worldwide. She earned almost $20 million per film at the time, making her the highest-paid woman in Hollywood. She suffered even though everyone loved her. She was constantly being pursued by paparazzi, and the strain caused her chest to constrict until she felt a knot in her throat. Although she kept the majority of it hidden from the public, she nevertheless experienced terror when traveling, filming, and promoting. The film put her at the forefront of the rom-com industry and made her America's sweetheart despite all that turmoil. On Sleepless in Seattle, there was an instance that demonstrated the extent to which she would go. The Empire State Building served as the backdrop for the major finale. She performed the majority of her own stunts because she wanted her steps to seem authentic. It was pouring with freezing rain. On the 102nd floor, she injured her shoulder after slipping while running. She gasped in pain, but she persisted in trying to complete the scene. Later, when on the 1994 press tour for her next movie, IQ, she had to wear a sling and have surgery. The owners of the real building declined complete access, therefore the actual movie sequence was filmed on a replica in Seattle. However, everyone was taken aback by Ryan's injury. Even so, she concluded the journey as though she had never experienced any harm. Then, in 1994, came When a Man Loves a Woman. She spent months attending actual AA meetings in order to prepare for her role as Alice Green, a lady drowning in alcoholism. She heard tales of shattered families and sluggish healing.
She also came from a family with a history of drinking, so some of it was personal to her. She felt the role's weight pressing down on her. She was so fully inhabiting the role that she experienced a relapse fear while filming. She was nominated for a Golden Globe for her performance, which also gave the public a more compassionate understanding of addiction. She re-teamed with Tom Hanks for You Have Got Mail in 1998. They spent 6 months exchanging light-hearted emails prior to the start of filming because they wanted the romance to feel gentle and organic. It was successful. The on-screen chemistry seemed natural. The film maintained her position as the romantic comedy queen and made $250 million worldwide. However, there were fissures underneath. Parker Posey, whose acerbic energy made scenes uncomfortable, and Ryan clashed. The tension increased to the point where it nearly resulted in a brawl. Some of the sentences made Ryan feel personally assaulted, so she requested changes to the script. The love between Hanks and Ryan made the difficult filming process seem insignificant when it ultimately hit theaters. In 1998, she faced City of Angels at about the same time. She performed the lengthy crying moments required for the part repeatedly, sometimes more than 50 times. Grief seemed to live on her shoulders for weeks. Filmed on Old Mill Road in Crest Lane, California, the last dying scene required her to descend into a softness that left her shaking after each take. Fans witnessed a different side of her. They witnessed a woman who was able to move away from humor and remain composed in the face of agony. During these years, her personal life appeared to be going well on the outside, but behind closed doors, everything was collapsing. On February 14, 1991, she wed Dennis Quaid in Paris. They dated for 2 years after meeting in inner space in 1988. White dresses, tuxedos, and a vivid Parisian backdrop made the wedding appear enchanting. They were dubbed the Golden Couple by Hollywood. However, the fissures appeared only a few months later. Quaid had battled a cocaine addiction for years and had checked himself into a recovery facility prior to the wedding. His relapses were severe and swift. Everyone was shocked when he was discovered comatose at their house in 1998, necessitating an intervention. Ryan carried more than most people realized, and the gloom of addiction sat silently in their home. She gave birth to their son, Jack Henry, on April 24, 1992. After 28 hours of labor, an emergency C-section was performed. Because Jack weighed 10 pounds, the delivery was significantly more challenging. Bryan subsequently acknowledged that she was overwhelmed by the change from making $15 million per movie to having to deal with sleepless nights and a new baby. She kept the most of her postpartum depression private, but therapy eventually allowed her to talk about how close she was to losing it. Later, her candor inspired other women to discuss their own challenges. The marriage kept disintegrating. She learnt of Quaid's adultery in 1993. She discovered hotel records in 1996 that showed she had an affair with a yoga instructor in Santa Monica. Counseling came next. While filming Sleepless in Seattle, Quaid admitted to having 12 one-night stands. Ryan felt deceived and exploited. Their mutual trust became brittle and slender. For tranquility and well-being, she adopted a vegan diet in 1995. Quaid returned to treatment. The holidays became stressful and burdensome. Then everything fell apart during Thanksgiving in 1997. When Quaid relapsed, he destroyed a $50,000 vase that Tom Hanks had given them out of frustration. To keep Jack safe, Ryan kept the incident a secret from the media. However, the harm within the marriage became more severe. She ultimately filed for divorce in 2000. She learned that Quaid had extramarital romances for about 8 of their 10 years together. In her notebooks, she expressed how heartbreaking the betrayal felt. The battle over custody was fierce. Eventually, she was granted $10,000 per month in support and primary guardianship. Their public love story came to an end with their divorce in 2001. After that, she rebuilt her life piece by piece, concentrating on Jack. She eventually discovered a silent strength and made the decision to go forward without any attention and just by herself. When Meg Ryan arrived on the Proof of Life set in the middle of 1999, she was more burdened than anyone could perceive. She portrayed Alice Bowman, a wife who had been abducted in a difficult environment. The man attempting to help her was portrayed by Russell Crowe, and their chemistry was evident on screen. It quickly disappeared from the screen as well. When she was still married to Dennis Quaid, a discreet affair began. As a covert present, Crowe sent her a $5,000 diamond earring. In June 2000, paparazzi captured it on camera, and tabloids circulated the images. Then, in October 2000, the trailers were released, and everyone started talking. During interviews, Quaid was heard referring to Ryan as the other woman, as though he had become the victim. The sound quickly spread. The movie fell short of its larger budget and only made $63 million at the box office. Both celebrities were going through vulnerable times in their lives when that 9-month affair occurred. Ryan later said that her emotional vulnerability, which had been developing inside her long before the cameras rolled, was the root of it all. Early in 2001, something unexpected happened. On a quiet, almost secret vacation to Sydney, Russell proposed to her with a 10-carat diamond ring. The media and friends were aware. The ring spoke for itself, but the couple never made any announcements. Then everything snapped. Crowe's jealousy of her former relationship with Tom Cruise from Top Gun served as the catalyst for their argument. Ryan took a solo flight back to New York after that argument. During that journey, she vowed to herself that she would never again fall in love with a co-star. There, the 9-month affair came to an end, leaving a path of damaged feelings and harm that affected her life and profession. Then the public jumped in. Crowe was portrayed as violent in articles published by the National Enquirer. In a 2001 interview with Vanity Fair, Ryan retaliated by claiming that Quaid had cheated on him long before she had even met Crowe. She changed the narrative, but many people didn't pay attention. A $12 million romantic comedy deal was canceled by Miramax because executives thought her charming persona had faded. The studio executives believed that the controversy had destroyed the impeccable image that had brought her fame. For a time, Ryan disappeared from view. She started going to therapy. She remained in Malibu by herself. She attempted to come to terms with the breakdown of her career, marriage, and audience trust. This marked the beginning of a lengthy decline away from Hollywood's core. In the midst of this, Hanging Up was released in 2000. She co-starred with Lisa Kudrow and Diane Keaton, but despite having a $60 million budget, the movie only made $51.9 million at the box office. Behind-the-scenes sources claimed that she arrived late more than 15 times due to custody disputes with Quaid. She lost a Jane Austen biopic that was previously hers because of that notoriety. By the third week following its premiere, the movie had fallen out of the top 10 in the US. Critics regarded her performance as unfocused and uninteresting. At this point, Hollywood started calling her troubled. Then came Hugh Jackman and Kate and Leopold in 2001. Only 47 million were produced globally. Behind the scenes, she struggled with tiredness from the final stages of the Crowe affair and the divorce. Her suffering was seeping into every take, so director James Mangold only included therapy sections in the script to help her cope. Although those scenes weren't in the original script, they allowed her to express herself. Nevertheless, the poor box office validated the studio's pre-existing concerns. The flaws were too obvious to conceal, and her attractiveness was evaporating from public view. After that, she startled everyone in the cut. 2003, it featured several private moments with Mark Ruffalo and was unvarnished. She desired to escape the charming roles that had held her captive. Her agent pleaded with her not to do it, telling her that it would permanently ruin her reputation as a rom-com star. Still, she did it. It was a sharp response. She was questioned by critics about why she would go nude. Her devotion to her supporters was questioned by talk show hosts. Her status in popular cinema further declined after the film's $74 million loss. She was exclusively desired by Hollywood as America's love interest. They never let her mature. Then, in 2004, came Up Against the Ropes. She attempted to conceal the fact that she had 2 broken ribs after training with actual fighters. Her name had become problematic for marketing teams, so MGM put the movie on hold for 2 years. Due to the lengthy delay, she was obliged to settle for $4 million of the $15 million she had been promised for the project. The premise felt stale, and many referred to her as miscast. She subsequently acknowledged that the entire ordeal exhausted her and increased her sense of alienation from the field she had previously led. In 2008, there was another opportunity with The Women. Although she acted and directed it, the movie only made 26 million copies in the US and 50 million internationally. Behind the scenes, there were loud arguments about script edits with Diane Keaton. The air became acrid. Reviews smashed the film when it came out. Ryan quickly left acting in 2009 because she needed time away from the commotion and the setbacks. She raised Jack Quaid while living in seclusion in New York from 2010 to 2014. She turned down about 20 rom-com screenplays. While Jack followed his own path, she shielded him from the business and encouraged him to live a regular life. Before enrolling at Tisch School of the Arts, he made an appearance in Adventureland in 2009. Before departing to pursue acting full-time, he stayed for 3 years. Ryan hardly ever revealed her face in public during these years. She created a life that felt different from her previous one by keeping her world small and concentrating solely on her baby. After that, paparazzi pictures of her with a swollen face surfaced in 2012. Instantly, rumors flooded the internet. People commented on how her features had transformed and how her lips were larger. She wouldn't affirm anything. There was nothing she would deny. The dispute was only intensified by the quiet age, some said. Others claimed that something else had occurred. The rumors followed her around, and those pictures became an integral part of her public persona. She took a different approach in 2015 when she directed Ithaca for the first time. The studios refused to back the $5 million budget, so she paid for 30% of it herself. Only 25 days were spent filming in Virginia. Tom Hanks made a brief appearance. The movie gave her a new feeling of purpose behind the camera, despite the lukewarm reviews. She starred in Fangirl, a tiny independent film that debuted at the 2015 LA Film Festival in June of the same year. It was never widely released in theaters, which harmed her attempts to reach a wider audience. She then moved even further away from the previous persona that had formerly characterized her when she studied directing at Sundance Labs. Her private life continued to be turbulent. Between 2010 and 2019, her relationship with John Mellenchamp was intermittent. Due to the stress caused by his bipolar episodes, he ended things by email in 2014. He soon made an appearance with a 23-year younger woman. In confidential court documents, Ryan described those years as extremely draining. In 2018, they became engaged, however in October 2019, they called it quits. Then, in 2019, Jack got the boys. Ryan discreetly assisted him in recording his 2021 audition tape, but she didn't put her name on it. She desired for him to be unique. She supported him and helped him get over the hurtful remarks about his appearance that he had to cope with in 2016. Their alliance became more solid. He publicly defended her, while she privately supported him. She then returned to the public eye in 2023 with What Happens Later. She directed and starred in it, and it cost $2 million to make. After its November 3, 2023, release, it made $3.4 million globally, including $1.5 million over its first weekend in 1,492 theaters. Her performance was praised by some critics but not by others. Nevertheless, it demonstrated her willingness to try again. She and Billy Crystal presented Best Picture at the 2025 Oscars 2 years later. When they saw her, viewers froze. Numerous memes were inspired by her face. People reported softer eyes, altered lips, and tighter skin. The change started between 2006 and 2011, according to Beverly Hills plastic surgeon Dr. Samuel Gulpanian, who also mentioned potential fillers, brow lifts, and small facelifts. Many people thought she had spent more than $100,000 on operations by 2025. Others backed her, claiming that she had been under decades of pressure from the industry. At last, she said something. She discussed body dysmorphia in a 2025 podcast appearance. She brushed off the rumors of surgery as foolish cruelty. She also disclosed how devastated she was by the divorce and the affair. She acknowledged that the humiliation had previously made her consider quitting Hollywood completely.
She claimed to be emotionally shattered and undermined. For many listeners, the candor struck a chord. She started her own production firm in 2024. Her divorce from Quaid and the custody dispute that cost her over $2 million in 2001 were the subject of one of the initial projects. To shield Jack from past trauma, she kept him away from the project. The stories she intended to share were based on actual suffering and featured the voices of underrepresented women. Her new chapter behind the camera included it. She claims that at 63, she is becoming more honest. The new appearance causes people to double take. She claims to be letting go of the previous iteration of herself. A Netflix series about vintage Hollywood scandals was also revealed by her. She serves as both executive producer and narrator, and it is scheduled for release in late 2025. She wishes to share the experiences she had in the past. Tales about the darkest moments of fame, secrets, and pressure.